Okay, thanks, Kevin. Glad to be here. Right now, environmental laws are coming from everywhere. We're getting them from local governments, we're getting them from county, we're getting them from state, and now the EPA has kind of disregarded the Endangered Species Act and was sued, so now the EPA has to reevaluate a lot of pesticides based on the Endangered Species Act. So we're going to see a lot of changes on how the EPA passes down the new pesticide laws for that. The way it's always been, California passes the law first, New York gets it second, Vermont, Connecticut get it third, and then Jersey comes in after that. I don't know what happened this time, but you guys decided to beat everybody to the punch. New Jersey banned imidacloprid in October immediately, so it was immediately restricted. So that influenced a lot of your budgets. I know of a couple of budgets that went up by $26,000 because you had to switch to another product. The only other product that we have that works on grubs is acelepryn. We have it for 2 more years. That is going to help us because acelepryn actually comes off of patent, so it should lower the price of acelepryn going forward, and there'll probably be generics that come out. But for you guys in Jersey, you got hit pretty hard right away. So there's certain things that are changing and why it's coming so much faster. All 3 states are single-party states, both houses and the governor. So it is a lot easier to pass some of these bills. Bees are a hot topic. They've been a hot topic for quite a long time. The reports that I've seen, the bees were in serious decline about 10 years ago. From 10 to 7 years ago, they really got hurt bad, and then they've been recovering rather nicely. Supposedly we have more bees now than we've ever had in the history of the United States. But I read an environmental report that said that they're doing worse than ever. So I don't know which ones to believe, but bees are a hot topic. And then the other thing that's happening is environmental groups really are strategizing on how to target specific areas. They know exactly where and how to get the laws passed. One example of this is Governor Newsom has signed into law AB 363, a bill authorized by Assembly Member Rebecca Bauer-Cahan and co-sponsored by NRDC. The bill that he signed into law was actually the bill that the New York State DEC passed into law last January. But they came to New York and they really put pressure on the Assembly and the governor to ban imidacloprid altogether. They lauded Governor Newsom for what he did, but then they put pressure on New York to ban it altogether. So there's a lot of different ways that it's coming, but it just keeps on coming. So I wanted to just look through and see what was affecting some of the different states. Connecticut actually doesn't seem like it's that bad. There's an HB 5004 that Christine Palm, who's vice chair of the environmental committee, she put out. It's an omnibus bill. It has 17 different multi-part initiatives. None of it seems to affect golf that much, so I don't think it's more to incentivize people to do things, not to punish. So Connecticut looks the best of all. Unfortunately, New Jersey, a lot of us you may have started to hear about PFAS. PFAS is coming down from the health departments. All community water tests have to test for PFAS. PFAS is used in pesticides. It increases pesticide efficacy. It increases its coverage. It increases shelf life. So it's used in a lot of ways, and the health department is monitoring it because it is turning up in our public water supply. S1043 is having the Department of Environmental Protection in New Jersey look at PFAS. Then you also have the New Jersey Green Amendment. These are just god-awful laws. It's a law that says that everybody must have safe drinking water, but it gives no parameters. So any environmental group can come up with can create a class action lawsuit because your water is dirtier than your neighbor's. There's no parameters that are set, so it's a feel-good bill that really accomplishes nothing and just sets up all sorts of lawsuits. I was surprised you didn't already have the Safe Playing Field Act. We've had that in Connecticut and New York for quite some time. So that's where you're not going to be able to apply pesticides to any playing fields in K through 12. The only thing that can affect that is that in New York, they also extended that to children's camps. So I know one thing that I was worried about at the golf course is where does the camp start and the golf course begin? So it's just something that I haven't heard the DEC ever mention it, but it is something to keep in mind. And then I didn't realize you have S 2017, which prohibits the sale and use of gas blowers in the state of New Jersey. I don't know if it's got a companion bill, but that's a state law that I'm sure everybody's gonna love. New York, there are a bunch of laws being passed looking at PFAS. My assemblyman, I don't know why it's always in my district, my assemblyman has brought a wetlands law which allows towns who have a wetlands commission to pass their own pesticide laws. Thank goodness Governor Hochul has vetoed that twice, so hopefully he won't bring it up again, but sometimes he doesn't seem to learn. And then Senator Hercom has brought up Class C streams, which is basically WOTUS at the state level. This would mean that all the streams with the New York State DEC, all the streams in New York State would be under New York State DEC, which means that permits could be a real problem, and we were talking about that this morning. Senator Hercom has also introduced the electrification law, which eliminates the sale and use of gas-powered engines under 26 horsepower by 2030. Very similar to the California law. The only positive about this rule is that the law gets revisited in 2027 and 2029 to make sure that the technology is keeping up. Because there's a lot of equipment that is definitely going in the way of electrification, but the pieces of equipment that are not aerifiers, a perfect example, there's nothing being looked at making those electric, so it's going to take some time. The last thing is the change with the EPA. The EPA now was forced through lawsuits that they pretty much disregarded the Endangered Species Act in the past when they were re-registering pesticides, and in court they lost and now have to use it. So the label will no longer be the law. You will have to look at what species are being affected by that pesticide and go on the EPA website to determine what mitigation measures you have to do depending on what stage of the Endangered Species Act you're in. It's going to get very complicated, and I don't know how it's going to be enforced. Two big things that are coming up now. The EPA is asking for a 30% reduction in chlorothalonil across the board. And then another one that I'd really like to see how they're going to enforce this. If you have sandy soils, less than 2% thatch, and you're closer than 60 feet to groundwater, you're only going to be able to use chlorothalonil once. The other thing is, every time you use chlorothalonil, you're going to have a wind anemometer with you because you're going to have to record your wind speeds every 15 minutes while you're spraying. And then lastly, iprodione is the newest projection is that they're going to limit that to 2 apps at 4 ounces per 1,000 per year. So those are 2 contact chemicals that are going to get pretty severely reduced.
on each surface? On each surface above?
Yes. Yeah, the chlorothalonil, whatever, it's gonna be 30% reduction in what's allowed on greens, tees, and fairways. But on iprodione, you're gonna be allowed to use it on all, still use it on all greens, tees, and fairways.
This is still in discussion. This doesn't affect the 2024 season yet, right?
The EPA one?
Yeah.
The EPA one will, this isn't finalized, this is their preliminary report. At best, I would say it would come out in June of '25.
Okay.
But that wouldn't be when it was enacted, that would be when it was published, and it would probably make it enacted in '26. That's a guess,